We spoke with the Principal Economic Advisor Sanjeev Sanyal about the dismal GDP numbers and asked him about his outlook for the quarters to come. Listen in.
The fact that there was a sharp negative number on GDP front shouldn't be entirely surprising. While the exact number may be a little worse than the average expectation, there is no doubt that most of us expected a large negative number. I'm sure you did as well. And that's what you've seen worldwide. Most economies around the world have printed very large negative numbers that for that particular quarter, and we had one of the tightest lockdowns in the world. So in that sense, a large number, negative number like this shouldn't be entirely shocking. Now the question is what happens from here on and what can we do about it? You just mentioned that the Reserve Bank of India is easing monetary policy in various ways. Of course, it had been cutting interest rates, but as you just mentioned, some sort of quantitative easing as well being pushed here. So I totally agree that it was necessary. And I think, as the Reserve Bank governor himself said a week ago, there is more scope for monetary easing even from here. Now, on the other front, as far as the fiscal front is concerned, many people believe that there is no space because our debt to GDP ratio is too high. I would like to say that our debt to GDP ratio is significantly lower than that of most developed countries. And that, in fact, there is scope for some, not a great deal, but some fiscal expansion. And if it requires us to allow the debt to GDP ratio to drift up a bit, so be it.
Sanjeev Sanyal, good evening. This is Naintara Rai working from home in Delhi. Since you're comparing India to the rest of the world, yes, we have done better than the United Kingdom. We're, of course, not done as bad. We've done worse than the United States. They annualize their GDP numbers. So what is looking like a 0.25% contraction for the US will perhaps be around 10%. But having said that, when you're talking about comparison of India versus the world, we had the world's most strict lockdown. We're still waiting for a bazooka from the government. Yes, we've received a stimulus package, but we keep hearing of how there are going to be more stimulus measures. Are we still going to see stimulus measures? Or is it going to come in batches the way we have been with a big emphasis on Atmanirbhar Bharat?
So let me say, I think even on your channel, I have said this before, there was no point in us doing huge stimulus measures during the quarter in question, which is the April to June quarter. We had ourselves put the economy in lockdown, knowing fully well the economic consequences of it. And so there was no point in pressing the accelerator when we had our foot firmly on the brake. Since then, we have pulled our foot off the accelerator in stages. The economy, while it may not be roaring, it's certainly come back significantly, and there are certain indicators that are now back to where they were roughly last year, say electricity consumption, freight movement on the railways, and so on. Of course, there are certain sectors that are still in lockdown. But as we come out of this lockdown phase, there is a case here for begin to press the accelerator more hard. And we discussed earlier that there is, of course, still some space on the monetary front. Point I had made, what I have made, and even the Reserve Bank governor has hinted at in the past. But as far as the fiscal is concerned, yes, there will be some greater effort to now begin to pump things up because things are now open and therefore receptive to a demand expansion. And one obvious thing which the Prime Minister himself mentioned in his Independence Day speech is a large infrastructure rollout. I think the conditions are absolutely right for doing it. Interest rates can fall, but they have already fallen significantly, at least by historical standards, so we can borrow. Global interest rates are so low that global resources can also be leveraged. And contrary to what the headline CPI number may suggest, there is no inflation in the system.